Yo, Mr. Royans here, coming at you with a new reading mini lesson, and today we are going to discuss one of my favorite things, context clues. I guess I should say good readers. Good readers use context clues. And there's a series of ways. There's about 4 definitive ways to look up context clues, or to use context clues to figure out the meaning of a word. And guys, this is such an important skill, because you are going to come across words you will not know the meaning of. And that is okay. Like, really, it is. But I want to give you the skills. I want to teach you the skills to help you figure out how to figure out the meaning of those words that you may not know. Okay? And I love coming across new words. I really do. I'll screenshot one of my I always record this when the bell rings. I will screenshot one of my notes pages that I've had on my laptops since I got a MacBook, so 8 years ago, that I keep definitions. I've come across a word I don't know when I'm reading, because I read some books that have some words and I'm like, and I'll write down the word, I'm like, what does that mean? And I'll look it up. And I'll write down the definition in my notes, and not that I ever really use those words, because some of them are a little archaic. The writers like to use esoteric language to the genres that I'm reading, and it's just like, I also have a friend, and he's one of the smartest people I've ever known. My buddy Paul. I've known him since I was 18, so for 21 years. He was the best man at my wedding. You've heard me talk about him before. He's a Notre Dame graduate. Super smart guy. Like, and he'll send text messages in our group chat between him, and my other buddy Adam, and he'll use a word sometimes. I'm like, what? And for instance, the word verisimilitude, which is like means seriousness. And he used it one day, and I was like, what? I had to look it up and figure it out, so I didn't look like a fool in responding to his text. So, luckily we have those iPads, and if you come across a word you don't know using the iPad, you can usually just like double tap on it and it'll read the word, and I think the dictionary definition will pop up too. But if you don't have access to that, you're reading a book maybe, and you don't have your iPad nearby, you're gonna need some skills, some tools to help you figure it out. And like I said, this is gonna be a 4-part series. We're gonna break this bottom part of the chart up into 4 parts. And just today, for this mini lesson, we're gonna focus on using other text. Other text. What does that mean, though? What do I mean when I say other text? Well, when you're reading, you're going to be reading a sentence. And you're going to be going along, and you're going to be reading, using your reading voice, and you're going to go, I don't know that word. What does that mean? And then you're going to use your thinking voice. And you're going to read the other words in the sentence. And you're going to make some background connections to what you know about the sentence that the word is in. And there's 4 things to look at. And I've got them all here on sticky notes. I'm just going to put right here in this category. And this one says next word. So you come across a word you don't know the meaning of. Look at the next word in the sentence. Does that explain the meaning of it? Does that tell you? Or maybe you need to look at the sentence before. Does the sentence before the word explain it? It's like a build-up to it. Or maybe if the sentence before doesn't explain it, what about the next sentence? Does the next sentence explain the meaning of the word? So maybe you're reading a sentence and you come across a word you don't know, but you keep reading and the next sentence explains it to you. Or comma sets. And the comma sets, they work like this. You have a word, maybe there's a comma, there's an explanation there, then another comma. In between those two commas is the definition of the word written down. Okay? So, you're gonna look at other text in the sentence. The next word, maybe that explains it. The sentence beforehand, the next sentence. Or maybe there's a comma set there. And we're gonna look at some examples. I've written some up on the marker here. This out of the way. And the underlined words, I'm going to run over here and check and make sure that, okay, there we go. So the underlined words are words that I want you to think about the definition of. And this sentence says, the ship transported cargo to the city. What does transported mean? I'm reading that, I'm using my reading voice. The ship transported cargo to the city. Thinking voice. What does transported mean? Well, I know that a ship takes stuff, and there's something, cargo to the city. There's a ship, and it's going to a city. So if it's transporting, that means that it's carried it. So a ship is transported cargo to the city. If I think of a ship is transporting, maybe it's on a body of water, it's got stuff in it, going down the river, taking stuff to a city, down the ocean, across the ocean. And one thing about context clues, guys, is you don't have to have the exact definition of the word. I can't tell you the exact definition of transported. I have a pretty decent vocabulary, I'd like to think, but I don't know the exact meaning of transported. I would say to carry, because port is carry, port is carry, and trans is across, so carry across. Oop, I forgot to underline. Okay. She hums continuously or all the time, and it annoys me. Well, what does continuously mean? And a lot of us probably know what continuously means, but I wrote this example because I want to bring your attention to one thing, and that is the comma sets on our anchor chart. So she hums continuously, comma, or all the time, comma, and it annoys me. So if somebody's humming all the time, if somebody's humming continuously, they're humming all the time, right? What I want you to pay attention to, like I said, comma there, in between the comma set is the definition. She hums continuously, or all the time, and it annoys me. last example here, guys, I've underlined the word feudal. And I want you to think about the skills we kind of talked about. The next word, the sentence before, the next sentence, comma sets. Attempting to avoid the accident was futile. Semicolon. Now a semicolon indicates a pause in a sentence. It works kind of like a period, but it's more of like an afterthought. Like attempting to avoid the accident was futile. It was impossible for either of them to stop in time. What's the meaning of the word futile? I'd be curious to know if you guys actually know the meaning, like off the top of your head. Well, if something is futile, what is it? Let's think about what we know. Let's use our thinking voice and activate background knowledge. So attempting to avoid the accident was futile. It was impossible for either of them to stop in time. What usually happens in an accident? Think about a car accident. Maybe you guys have been in one before. Maybe you've seen one. Maybe you've seen one on TV. A car accident is two cars, and maybe it's hard for people to stop in time. Cars going this way, not paying attention. Somebody's trying to go straight, not paying attention. Neither of them can stop in time. So, if something is futile, if it was futile for them to try and avoid the accident, last bell, I promise. Attempting to avoid the accident was futile. It was impossible for either of them to stop in time. So if nobody could stop in time and it was impossible, that means that you couldn't avoid it, which means that futile means impossible. You ever heard the phrase, resistance is futile? It's pointless. You can't stop it. It's impossible to stop. Okay? So you're going to have an activity. We're going to look at some context clues and try and figure out the meaning of a word to your best guess. Remember, it's not going to be the exact dictionary definition of the word. And I don't expect that. But I do expect you to try. And I do expect you to get kind of close. All right? Royans. Out.